Something that Christopher Beale said today was that she intended to kill Simon Patterson as well. That was a remarkable moment, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a huge moment. He tracked us through those text messages that you'll remember from the trial. The text messages where Simon said to her, "I just feel too uncomfortable to attend."
Please stand. For the attempted murder of Ian Wilkinson, I sentence you to 25 years imprisonment. For the murder of Heather Wilkinson, I sentence you to life imprisonment. For the murder of Gail Patterson, I sentence you to life imprisonment. For the murder of Don Patterson, I sentence you to life imprisonment. All sentences are to be served concurrently. The total effective sentence is life imprisonment, and I fix a non-parole period of 33 years.
2056, when Erin Patterson is 81, is when she will have her next opportunity of seeing the sunlight. Ellie Dudley is the Australian's legal affairs correspondent, and she's been covering the sentencing of Erin Patterson in the Victorian Supreme Court. Ellie, we've finally found out how long she's going to be in jail for. What was the sentence?
So she's sentenced to life in prison with a 33-year non-parole period. So the sentencing was always going to be not about whether she was going to spend life in prison. That was already sort of a given. The prosecutors had said that she deserves life in prison, and even the defence lawyers, Erin's lawyers, had said that she deserves life in prison. The question was whether or not she was going to get a parole period, whether or not she was ever going to be released from prison, seeing the sun again, or whether the judge was going to say, no, you know what, this offending is too grave, it is too serious, there is too much of a risk to the community, and therefore we're going to keep you locked up for life. So she was granted that 33-year non-parole period today. So if she does ever leave prison, she'll be 81 years old.
Yeah, Colin Mandy, SC, Erin Patterson's defence barrister, has really done a sterling job throughout this trial in having material excluded that was prejudicial to her, and in sentencing submissions he did it again. He elicited a lot of evidence, particularly from a senior official of Victoria's Corrections Department, about just how tough Erin Patterson is doing it in jail. And Mandy brought things out of this corrections official that I don't think she was even intending to say, that she is in a cell by herself where she has just a tiny concrete yard. She can communicate with one other prisoner who's her next door neighbour, but that person has a terrorism offence and has also been convicted of assaulting other people in prison. So she's alone. She's doing this time tough. And that's the central part of what the judge found is a reason for what he described as clemency, that she's essentially going to serve the rest of this sentence in solitary confinement. That is regarded as, internationally regarded as a punishment kind of above and beyond what our society has agreed upon, which is the deprivation of liberty. So she did well out of today, probably as well as she could have, I think.
Yeah, and he said that solitary confinement should be a weighty consideration, but he said that the non-parole period should not be read as a detraction from how serious the offending was of Erin Patterson. So this non-parole period, Claire, what would Erin have to do in order to see sunlight again?
Well, demonstrate remorse for a start, which is something she has never done. And the judge took that into account today. She's never admitted that she did this deliberately. Her claim has always been that this was an accidental poisoning, a terrible accident. To get to a parole board in 2056, she'll be 81 by the time those hearings begin. She'll have to do what prisoners always have to do, demonstrate some level of understanding of their offending, that they're no longer going to be a risk to the community. We often see offenders who have been convicted of violent crimes come before the courts where they've had to participate in a course in jail. So a sex offenders course, a violent offenders course, perhaps a drug and alcohol rehabilitation course. Those might not apply to Erin Patterson, but they're are going to have to be demonstrations that she understands the severity of her offending and that she's not going to do it again. He said too that because she's a violent offender, and it was quite stark hearing that phrase applied to her, she is the main reason for her incarceration is protection of the general public.
You gave evidence at your trial that had Simon attended the lunch, you would also have served him a beef Wellington. I accept the evidence of Ian Wilkinson that you served your guests their meals on 4 grey plates, while your individual beef Wellington was on a smaller, orangey tan-coloured plate, a fact that Heather also commented on to Ian and Simon the next day.
Something that Christopher Beale said today was that she intended to kill Simon Patterson as well. That was a remarkable moment, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a huge moment. He tracked us through those text messages that you'll remember from the trial. The text messages where Simon said to her, "I just feel too uncomfortable to attend." And she said, "Well, I've spent a small fortune on beef. Please come to this lunch." And then on top of that, we also know about the attempted murder charges that were laid against Erin Patterson in relation to Simon Patterson. So as anyone who watched this sentencing or has read reports of it will know, Erin Patterson intended to kill 5 people but only got away with killing 3.
It was really interesting hearing the judge set out in such an organised and tidy way the events that he considers significant, wasn't it? Because during the trial, there were mobile phones going everywhere and SIM cards and beef Wellington in one bin and something being diagnosed by a scientist. And I don't know about you, but I lost track of kind of what was important and what was not.
Yeah.
And we'll never know what the jury thought because they only have to say guilty or not guilty. So in his sentencing, Justice Christopher Beale set out where he believes it started, and that was the 16th of July, 2 weeks before the lunch, when she invited Simon Patterson, his parents, and his aunt and uncle to this lunch. The judge said that by that time she had already become a practiced mushroom forager, out there looking for death cap mushrooms, thanks to the iNaturalist website, which she was very familiar with. She then went and purchased the dehydrator, dehydrated death caps, and then deliberately put them in the food. It was a stark lineup of what he thinks she'd done.
Yeah, and to your point, Claire, when a jury stands up and deliver a verdict, guilty, not guilty, there is still a whole heap of unanswered questions, and we got answers to some of those questions today. We heard from Justice Beale that he believed Ian Wilkinson's version of events, that Erin Patterson did serve beef Wellingtons on different coloured plates for her guests versus the tinier tan-coloured plate that she served her own meal on. He accepted Ian Wilkinson's version of events in relation to Erin Patterson telling her guests that she had been diagnosed with cancer. When Erin Patterson was giving evidence during trial, she said that she never said that she had a diagnosis of cancer. She said she might have alluded to it or said that she was unwell when she wasn't. So there were a lot of answers that we were finally given today.
Another one was his description of her handing the police a dummy phone. That was this beautiful moment of clarity where we'd heard about phone A and phone B and SIM card 1 and SIM card 2. And Erin Patterson has never admitted, and I don't think really in the witness box was properly asked what she did with phone A, her main phone, which is the reason why a lot of evidence didn't make it into the trial.
Yeah, so frustratingly for the police, there's an entire phone somewhere that's probably got evidence in it of photos and text messages or whatever that is, and they'll never be able to access it or never understand where that phone even ended up.
Yeah, and phones don't just disappear. I mean, we're left to assume that Erin Patterson threw it into a river or took it to the Coonawarra tip where she was a frequent flyer. She in Justice Christopher Beale's reasons, Erin Patterson is just a cold-hearted killer who wanted to kill more people than she actually successfully did.
I will conclude my account of key aspects of the victim impact statements with what Don and Gail's son Matthew had to say about your betrayal of trust. Quote, Erin was embraced as part of the Patterson family. She was welcome and treated with genuine love and respect in a way she did not appear to experience from her own family. Her actions represent a profound and devastating betrayal of the trust and love extended to her. Having regard to the aggravating circumstances of your offending and the victim impact statements, I have no hesitation in finding that your offending falls into the worst category for the offences of murder and attempted murder.
There was another moment that I thought was very stark and very powerful when the judge read into the record some of the victim impact statements that we hadn't been allowed to hear. He read about Ian and Heather Wilkinson's son David describing their mother begging for water and not being allowed to have any because the doctors and nurses didn't want to impede their attempts to treat her. And Ian Wilkinson's lips turning black. God, it was horrifying, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was completely horrifying. And on top of that, he made reference to Ian Wilkinson's victim impact statement from when we heard it a couple of weeks ago now. Those will remember that Ian Wilkinson forgave Erin Patterson and said that she'd now become a victim of his kindness. And Justice Beale in that moment directly addressed Erin and said, you would be wise to heed this forgiveness and to heed what Ian Wilkinson is saying.
That's something that the Parole Board will come back to, I would say,
Yeah.
in 33 years, worth taking a note for Erin Patterson.
Yeah.
If I was on the Parole Board and they do have community representatives, I would be asking, have you sought forgiveness? Have you tried to show remorse for your conduct?
You can read all of our coverage on the Erin Patterson triple murder trial on theaustralian.com.au, and if there is an appeal, we'll bring you all of the news there.